You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to a Rooftop Mingle session on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a Colorado Rockies podcast network. I'm your host, Evan Lang. Joining me, as always, is Skyler Timmons, and we have a very special guest today. It is pitcher for the Fresno Grizzlies and Colorado Rockies pitching prospect, Brody Brecht. Brody, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm sure the weather out in California is a little better than it is here in Colorado over these last couple days.
Yeah, it's been pretty nice out here. Can't complain.
Didn't have a game postponed due to snow?
Nope.
That came out of nowhere because it was like 80 degrees the other day, and then all of a sudden we got about a good half foot of snow on the ground.
That's crazy, man. I don't miss that.
Oh yeah, you're no stranger to snow, being up from Iowa.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't miss any of that stuff. With baseball, it's supposed to be played in the warm weather.
That's not how Colorado rolls. This early in the season, we had our home opener this year, where on paper it was 35. It felt a good 10 degrees colder. So You can look forward to that.
Hey, it's all right. I played at Iowa. I'm used to it.
Yeah. So one of my first questions, you were actually a two-sport athlete at the University of Iowa. You were a commit there for football as a wide receiver. What ended up being the decision-making point where you chose to pursue baseball professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a couple just had some injuries that I just couldn't quite shake. And I just wanted to have a healthy fall and build up, just throwing progression going into my junior year. Just kind of have a healthy fall and just, go full in on baseball and see what happens. It was tough. Football is always my first love, but, I think it was the best decision, for me, and I'd make it, again, 10 times over. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And kind of with that background in football and other things, how being that two-sport athlete, how has that kind of helped you in this baseball pursuit of your career, of taking maybe some of the things you've learned playing football or whatever else and applying that to being on the mound?
Yeah. I think just like, physically, like my body's used to, a lot of, hit and pain, like just like the physical toll football takes on your body. Like, I think that my body is, primed and ready. It's almost like a kind of like a relief, just doing baseball and stuff. So, I think I've built up good, health wise on the diamond. Like I feel like I'm in a good spot. And just like the discipline, especially Iowa football, it's not for everybody. There's a lot of, it's grueling practices, workouts, and that type of stuff. So just like the mental toughness to be able to, go out there every single day, pads are hitting and stuff, and, taking that to the mound, just, crowd noise, whatever, still got to lock in, dial in, and be mentally tough out there, because every day is not going to be your day, but you still got to get, the job done with what you got. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, you can say the same about baseball. And you had two very strong seasons with your hometown University of Iowa on the mound there, and a lot of work out of the bullpen your first year, a lot of starts your second year, and then more starting in 2024. Then, as we've noticed here, they've had you starting games down in Fresno as well. And so I'm curious, is there a preference for you do you see yourself as, I am a starting pitcher, I want to be in the rotation, or is there a preference towards coming out of the bullpen? What is your go-to?
Me personally, like I like starting, I like the routine, like knowing when you're going to throw, being able to dial in, your recovery, your lift days on certain days to just, get that routine down so you can, be close to 100% as you can on game days. So I like starting, but if the pen is what they want me to do, then I'll do that as well. But starting is definitely my preference. So,
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Less chance of you having to come in with runners on base, because Sponsel, you get the clean slate every time.
Exactly.
But yeah, coming into that transition, and sorry, Evan.
No worries.
Coming into that transition of starting and whatnot, how do you go about preparing? What's kind of your routine of how you get into the mind space of, all right, I'm getting ready. Here's how here's how I want my start to go. So what's that preparation process like for you? Because I know it's different for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I got like a schedule. We're kind of on like a 6-day block right now. So, I'm throwing once every 6 days. So, day after. It was big for me just trying to get, cortisol level down. I usually do like a float tank therapy, just try to get the body like reset, calm down, just kind of flush everything out, and then the next day I'll do, cold pool contrast, just, continue to flush the body out. And then, usually by day 3, 4, I'm feeling pretty good. And, that's when I'll do more Normatex, soft tissue stuff. And then, we're ready to roll, by day 5, 6. But yeah, lifting wise, like I go, like try to get my heavy lift out of the like day after, my start day, just try to, get the hardest lift out of the day, out of the way first, so I can be close to 100%, on start days I can. But, I feel like I got a pretty good routine right now. I'm feeling good, and, I just try to stick to that as much as I can. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you hear so many different things of how people prepare, of, oh, I'm going to be coming out of the bullpen, oh, I'm part of the rotation. So it's just really interesting to hear all of the differences there, because especially this early on in your professional career, you mentioned your preference is definitely of being a starter, but it's early enough that who knows where the path is going to take you. In the spring breakout game this year, you came out of the bullpen in the 3rd inning. And how was that different for you, where that was your first real professional baseball appearance and it's coming out of the bullpen versus as a starting pitcher?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about starting, like, it's good to just have a routine. That's what I like about it. But, my job doesn't change on the mound. It's still to execute a pitch. And so, whether I'm starting or on the mound, like, I'm still going to have that same mentality of, executing one pitch at a time. But that was a really cool opportunity, going up against, the White Sox, some good prospects they got, and just, be able to know some of the other, guys in the Rockies org, talking with them, being able to experience that with them was really cool. So I had a lot of fun, and, I was grateful for the opportunity to be able to throw.
I think what impressed a lot of people is you were just bringing the gas on the mound. That's something we hear about you a lot, is you've got that high octane arm. And someone wanted to, what got you into pitching growing up? What led you into that path of being a pitcher and just developing that arsenal? Or did you know early on, like, I can throw heat, or some you kind of built on over the years?
I mean, I've always been able to throw hard. I was a center fielder my whole life, up until, I went to Iowa. So like high school, I was center field. Like, I always had a good arm out there. So it just translated to the mound. But I didn't like take pitching seriously until probably like my, like sophomore year of high school, probably is when I was like, all right, like this, pitching could be something, we could definitely do. Like, I always just wanted to, play center, hit. Like, that's what I love. So, pitching just kind of came naturally, just being able to throw hard, being a, athlete out there. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of progressed. Like, when we, started taking it more seriously, that's when we started doing, plyos, bands, that type of stuff, building up the arm strength, the arsenal, off-speed pitches, that type of thing. So, but yeah, that's kind of the journey with that.
And with the fastball, is there a specific grip that you found worked best for you to kind of get that maximum velocity, or help you on the mound?
I mean, I don't think the grip necessarily has anything to do with the velocity. Like, for me, it was more about what I feel comfortable with. Like, I used to, like, I kind of flipped the shoe around, in my hand, which I feel comfortable with that. I feel like I get the right movement on it that I want. But it just kind of depends,
Whatever's feeling good.
Exactly. Just get the baseball and throw it. So.
Yeah. Something I've always been really curious about. So you're talking about you making this conversion from outfield, center field to pitcher, is what goes into the decision-making process of selecting your arsenal, your breaking pitches. You've got this killer slider in combination with your fastball. Yeah. And what goes into, if there even is a decision-making process of, this is what I want to throw, this is how I'm going to throw it?
I mean, honestly, like, I've thrown the slider. Like, I've pretty much had the same grip since junior year of high school. Like, it's been working, so I'm not going to change it. So it's just kind of there, definitely, high school, like, it was, a lot of fastball slider. There's, really no need for a changeup when you're in high school. So, that was something I had to develop at Iowa a little bit, throwing a changeup, but I'm a natural supinator. I can't pronate very well. So that's why, I've transitioned to the split, started that last year, and now this year too is my second year with it. So, just continue to, get that as a, third pitch, throwing it, more often. That's, goal of mine is to be able to throw it more often, especially as a, if I want to be a starter, I got to have at least 3 pitches I can go to at any count. So, that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
And something I like with that, if adding on the arsenal, because I feel like a lot of pitchers as they grow up, and I know I learned that when I was growing up, where there's a point where you have to start transitioning from being just a thrower, a
Yep.
kid who can throw hard, into pitching.
Yep.
What has that process been like for you? Is that something you're still working on, getting into that mentality of, okay, I'm learning how to pitch now more than just throwing, and
Yeah.
mix in those other ones?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, like you get like when you're just out there throwing the ball, like there's really no, intent, like you're just kind of letting it rip. But like now, like, in college, and especially this level, like you have to be able to command it. Like you got to be able to hit your quadrants, you got to go fastball. For me, like it was, learn to throw fastball inside. I've always been middle away, so teams would just eliminate inner half. So, this year I've been, hitting the inner half of the plate, which has been good. So just continue to go with that. But like, you just gotta, going back to like, arsenal, like you got to know what works for you, right? Like I'm over the top guy. So like for me, like a sweeper wouldn't make sense because, I'd probably drop my arm slot. That doesn't fit into my, arsenal. I need something going, up, down, and that type of stuff. So you just got to know what kind of works for you. That's why, I'm going splitter, change up. Like I'm not a big horizontal movement guy. Like I just need something that kind of, drops straight down, that kind of goes off the slider and stuff. So you just got to know what type of pitcher you are and what would fit best into your arsenal.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in the Rockies organization since you've joined up that you've been working with in terms of continuing to develop your arsenal, working on building up these pitches that you've got?
Yeah, I mean, I think like our pitching coach here, Jerry Sullivan, like he's, I feel like we got a really good relationship, and he had a nasty splitter when he was pitching. So like, for me, it's just, I think like we talked about it yesterday, like right now, like I feel like I'm trying to like just will it into the movement that I want, rather I just need to throw it, like, and just trust the grip, and trust my arm that it's gonna, like, everything else will take care of itself. So he's kind of just been, kind of, a rock for me to lean on, just like, asking him about, all right, what I sit next to him every game, like, what pitch do you throw here? Like just learning how to be a pitcher, and how to get these guys out, having a plan, studying the hitter, their swings, that type of stuff. So he's definitely been, a good mentor for me.
And not like that. And something I wanted to ask, if being in Fresno, that's the ground floor really of, your journey up to the bigs there for a lot of you guys. And a lot of you guys down there in that pitching unit are in your first full professional season here. How has it been like where you're all growing together as a unit in this pitching staff? Guys that have maybe very few little service time in the minors, so within their first couple of seasons, what's the camaraderie there? How's it been with working together as a unit in your growth?
Yeah, I think, so the guys that have been here for a few years, you ask them, like, just like, what do you recommend? Like, what's the best way to get in a routine? Because it's, you're on your own a lot. Like you get the facility, you're here late, and then, you got, all morning, and some of the afternoon, right? So like, how are you going to use your time? Like, are you getting better? Are you getting worse off the field? So, just for them has been just dialing in a routine, like getting something that works for you, has been really big. And just like being able to, like, hang out in the, in the clubhouse, whether it's playing cards, watching a show, whatever. Like we got a lot of, like, me playing at Iowa, like we're all from, I mean, you get one guy from Cali, Texas, whatever. We're all from Iowa. We all played against each other in high school. Like we all pretty much knew each other already. So, now you got dudes from all over the country, all over, you got the Latin guys here. Like you got to, figure out what works for you guys, how you guys can mesh as a team. So, we're figuring that out. I think we got a good, tight knit group, whether we're listening to, Bad Bunny or whoever, like, we're trying to make, all ends meet and whatnot. So I think we got a good group, but just leaning on each other, learning from experience, the guys that have been here and whatnot. So
do you feel like there's, I know it's super early in the season, just barely out of spring training, honestly, but do you feel like there's, any guys that you've become particularly close with so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, your roommates that you're seeing, every day. I'm with, Jackson Cox right now. So like, like I'm, he didn't go to college. So, he's trying to, we had a great conversation yesterday. We both didn't, pitch the best, these past 2 days. And so like, he was just asking me, he's like, hey, what'd you see out there and whatnot? And, I told him, what I thought. And, we just had, a lot of conversation about the mental game of baseball and that type of stuff. So that was a really good conversation. But, there's a lot, a lot of other guys like Everett Catlett, he's a, big personality guy. So just, hanging out with him, go doing like, float tanks or, recovery stuff together, like hanging, playing cards, getting dinner. Like, we got a lot of guys that, we hang out with on the team. LB, from Texas, like he was my roommate, throughout all the instructs and everything. So, we got a tight bond and whatnot, but we got a good group. We all got, I feel like we all hang out. There's no bad blood between anybody. Like we're all doing really good. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I know that's kind of the culture the Rockies have been wanting to build in the minor league system is, where you guys can come up together and really be yourselves and help one another. So it's nice to hear that, especially because Fresno is an awesome place.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rockies lucked out there.
Yeah, beautiful ballpark, awesome team.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting because your first professional start was really that spring breakout prospect showcase game, and I'm really curious to know, did it feel like, because that was your first real start where all the cameras are on you for spring training for minor league baseball, you got the major league people watching as well, compared to your first start in Fresno, did it feel like it was more of like a high pressure situation, or that there was more of a spotlight being shined on you there?
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, like my job, my mindset hasn't changed on the mound. Like it's executing one pitch at a time. That day, that prospect game was so, like, I feel like rushed. Like we got there, got little time to stretch out. You sign autographs, and then I swear it was the quickest first 2 innings. Like it was like there were like 3 double plays. Like, I mean, I threw like 4 pitches in the pen, and I'm out there. So like for me, I was just trying to catch my breath, honestly. But no, it was awesome. Like I said, like you can only control what you can control. For me, like, I've been a starter, so like it was trying to figure out what would work for me in the pen, just getting loose, make sure the fastball slider is good. We got 1 inning, let's go out there, let's just do what we do, execute 1 pitch, and I had a blast. So
awesome. And something I wanted to ask before we'll have a couple of little funner questions to ask you, but what's your goal this season? What is it you're working on or hope to improve upon or accomplish this season in your first full professional season in the minors?
I mean, my biggest thing, I just want to have a healthy year, right? I just want to, be able to get through this first year healthy, get, a good amount of innings under my belt, and just enjoy, this first year of pro ball and just see what it's about, find a routine that works for me. And then, just pitching wise, I just want to, be able to, say I got 3 pitches. I want to be able to throw, 3 legit pitches anytime, I want to in any count, and have total, confidence in that. Just for me, it's about a bigger picture, right? I don't want to just, be fastball slider throughout this whole year. Like I want to, be able to prepare myself, going forward and, major league career. Like I need to have at least 3 pitches. So my goal this year is just to dial in these 3 pitches, specifically the splitter, get that going, and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, I just want to have a healthy year, enjoy this first season, and just grow as a baseball player and learn from it. So
absolutely. We're rooting for you.
I appreciate you.
So we normally end these things out with a couple more fun questions. The one we normally ask might be a little difficult because, again, it's so early in the season. But we normally ask, your desert island situation, and you've got to choose one teammate that you're there with in order to increase your chances of survival. Who do you pick?
So one of probably my other roommate, Luke Taggart. He's a Texas boy. He's hunter, like he's outdoors guy, so like, and that's not who I am. So like I need somebody who can do that. Like I'll do the heavy lifting and all that stuff, building the fort, but I need somebody who can go kill an animal and so I'm probably going with Luke Taggart.
There you go.
And he's got kind of the wild man look to him. He's got the big beard, he's got the longer hair, kind of the elder statesman of the group right now.
Exactly.
What about in your downtime? In between starts, and something. What do you like to do in your spare time? What hobbies? What interests you when it's not baseball?
I mean, if it's not baseball, if I'm not doing recovery stuff, like I'm a big gamer. Like I love video games. Love playing cards with the guys, poker, that type of thing. So I'm really like a homebody. Like I love just chilling. Like when it's my time to rest, like just rest and just be present in whatever I'm doing. So I definitely say video game guy for sure. So
what have you been playing when you've had time?
Right now I'm actually rebuilding the Rockies on the show right now. I edited myself.
99s everywhere.
You always do, yeah. So made myself debut, that type of stuff. But once NCAA comes out, like I'll do that. Like I'll play with Iowa, create myself, have the career that I wanted to have, and that type of stuff. So, but no, like I'll just whatever, kind of really whatever sports in the moment, like that's kind of what I'm ripping. So
they actually gave you a pretty good card in MLB The Show 24 last year after the draft. It was you and Chase Dolander were like the two best Rockies pitcher cards.
Yeah, a couple of my buddies, they said that they got me in the Diamond Dynasty and they were playing with it or whatever. So that's fun.
All right, my last question for you, just because I'm curious now. Bit of a homebody, dog person or cat person?
Dog for sure. Yeah, I'm not a big cat. No, if you guys got cats, no offense, but I'm not a big cat guy.
Fair enough.
I'm a dog guy, for sure. So,
and you mentioned music in the club. Who are you? It comes down to it. Who would you prefer to hand the aux cord to? Who has the best taste in music? Who has the worst taste in music that you've seen so far?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I put my AirPods in and I listen to my there's a lot going on. Half the time I don't understand the words, so I put my AirPods in and I'm bumping some Forrest Frank, Brandon Lake. Like that's my role. So
whatever Robert Kalaz is rocking to, probably not vibing.
Yeah, I don't think we got the same taste in music. So.
Well, Brody, it's been an absolute delight to talk with you. We really appreciate having you on with us today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Wishing you best of luck the rest of the way in your first full professional season.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Once again, we thank Brody Brecht for joining us here on a Rooftop Mingle session on Rocky Mountain Rooftop.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.